Dear students, let us start with Module 4. This is the agenda for the day. I am going to cover three-dimensional viewing pipeline, three-dimensional viewing coordinate parameters. In the three-dimensional viewing, we will be having multiple things and we are going to see each of these topics one by one. When we go for a three-dimensional viewing, the first thing we should have is the camera. So the camera will be having its own reference frame for viewing. The camera, whatever it is going to see, that it has to capture, and whatever it is going to capture through its reference frame. That means it will be having its own coordinate system. That is the camera coordinate system. It is going to collect that information and it is going to transfer that information onto the view plane. That means whatever the camera was seeing, that object, the object's characteristics, it may be the color, or it may be the angle made, or it may be the front face of a polygon. So whatever information it is collecting, that information will be transferred to the view plane. So the camera, when it is placed in the scene, two things are necessary. First one is the camera's position. That means in a 3D viewing plane, where the camera is placed in terms of the X, Y and Z parameter. Second thing is at what angle it is placed. That means the orientation is also significant when we are going for placing a camera. After we are done with viewing an object, whatever we had viewed through the camera, those objects, they will be now put onto the view plane. And when you are displaying it onto the view plane, you can do it by using either a wireframe model or by using a realistic surface rendering method. So any of the two forms, we are going to display our output which is seen through the camera onto the view plane, either by using a wireframe or a realistic shading technique. In this figure, we can see that there is an object, and this object is present in its own XYZ coordinate system. This object is viewed through a camera. This camera is also having its own coordinate system. XYZ, it is placed in a XYZ coordinate system. So the camera is at some position and it is also making an angle with the object. Whatever the camera is seeing, those things it will be projected onto its view plane. In the camera's view plane will be consisting of the object description. The object description will be now placed on the view plane and that can be rendered onto the viewing surface. Whatever has been captured through the camera, now that has been displayed on the viewing plane. So in the first one we have the realistic shading and in the second one we have the wireframe. In the wireframe, the polygons or the small lines what are there, they are going to make up the image. Whereas in the realistic shading, we will not have the lines and all, it will be a clear. As far as possible, we will try to bring out the natural looking shading. That means how we human beings see the object. The same thing we are going to try and bring it out from a surface rendering. The objects what are there in the scene, they can be projected onto the view plane by making use of two methods. The first one is we can go for a view plane along parallel lines, or we can go for a view plane which is along the converging paths. So the first one, which is called as the parallel line projection, this is called as parallel projection. So this method is widely used in engineering and architectural CAD drawings and all. We can see how we can go for the accurate dimensions by projecting the object onto a view plane which is along the parallel lines. Here we can look at the three views of the object. The object is viewed from the top, from the side and also from the front. So we have three planes. Onto the three planes we are going to project our points. In this case we are projecting only onto a parallel lines. That means we are going to have a plane and whatever the objects are there, on the objects the points are there. All these points will be projected along parallel lines and then I am going to get a view which will be in the case of this particular object, it will be having a parallel view. We can also generate a view for a three-dimensional scene by making use of a perspective projection. The perspective projection is got whenever we are going to project the points to the view plane along the converging paths. So this is far more realistic than the parallel projection, because this is how our eyes see the scene. That means whichever object is closer to us, we see them as a big object. If the size is same but it is placed farther away from our eyesight, then we seem to believe that it will be much smaller. So that is how our eyes are going to see. The same thing will be seen in the perspective projection. Whenever we are going to develop a three-dimensional scene in which we are having the projecting points which are along the converging paths, that means on the view plane we will be having the points on the converging path, then this is called as a perspective projection. This is more realistic because you can see that the objects which are closer to the eye, they will be seen as bigger. Though the size is same, as and when the objects are moving farther away from the eye, the size of the object seems to be reducing. So this is called as a perspective projection. Why it is called as a converging paths means, converging means meeting. They don't meet, but it seems that they are going to meet. The railway track are going to meet. So converging path, we have the paths where we are having, maybe it is going to meet at an infinite distance. So this type of a projection is called as a perspective projection. In a three-dimensional scene, we have to know the depth information. If we know the depth information, then we can know which object is in the front, which object is at the back, which object is obstructing another object's view. All this information can be got by depth information. Depth cueing is a method in which we are going to understand the depth of each of the objects present in the scene and how well, making use of this depth, we can go for displaying them onto the view plane. So in the next figure, we are going to understand why this depth cueing is necessary in the view plane. In this picture, the figure A is a pyramid. So when we look at the pyramid, you can see that because all the lines are present here, we don't know whether the pyramid is upright. That means whether the base is at the bottom of the surface or whether we are seeing through the base. There are two ways we can look at this particular pyramid. That is the reason why we have to go for the depth cueing. So in the figure B, we can see that if we remove the extra lines, it will be in the downward position. Or in the figure C, we can go for, when we again remove some extra lines, we can go for seeing that we are seeing through the base of the pyramid. So if an object is not having the depth cueing, it can be having multiple meanings, which will be confusing for rendering a scene. That is why we have to use some techniques to remove unwanted lines and clearly tell which is in the front and which is in the back, so that the object will be clear from any direction. One technique in the depth cueing is when we are having an object, to differentiate between the surfaces which are close by to the camera and the surfaces which are far off, we can differentiate them by giving different intensities. That means you can give the maximum intensity to the objects or to the lines or to the planes which are closer to the camera, and as the object is moving away, then you can reduce the intensity. So the lines which are closer to the viewing position, they will be having the brightest intensity, and when it is moving away from the viewing position, it will be having less intensity. So we can choose a range of distances, and along the distances we can vary the intensity, and we can make a view of that object look very realistic by making use of this particular depth cueing method. Apart from the depth cueing, to identify the lines on the surfaces which are nearby or far, we can also go for some simple techniques where we can highlight the visible line or we can display the visible lines in a different color. So when we vary the colors, you will know that they are highlighted and you know that it will be displayed properly. Or else you can just go for You must have seen in the CAD drawings and all, when you do, if you have some lines which are behind and all, we usually mark them by making use of a dotted lines or the dashed lines. We can even use that approach also. And the best method is where we can go for removing all the non-visible lines from the object. If they are lying behind, it is as well as good that it should be removed. It should not be visible. So we just remove them from the object. So you can see here in the picture A, we had the confusion that object whether we are seeing through the base or whether it is placed on the bottom of the surface. So what we can do is we can remove the extra lines as in the figure B. When you remove the extra lines, the picture here, it is very clear that it is being placed on the ground. It is placed on the bottom. And the third one in the C, you can see that if we are seeing through the base, even that will be clear. There won't be any confusion when we remove the extra lines. This is, instead of using the depth cube, we can use small techniques also to remove these visible lines and make sure that the object what is being rendered, it will be rendered without any confusion. The display has to be rendered properly by making use of the lighting and the shading. In the previous topic, we have studied the APIs which are supporting for rendering the scene with lights and surface properties. So we can set up a light, we can give its position, we can give its color, and we can also mix up different colors, and we can also go for making that material appear like a glass, plastic or a wood, or it can be having any other appearance also. The objects can be made transparent or it can be made opaque. The objects can be made smooth or it can be made rough. All these things are done by making use of the APIs. And then by using these APIs, when we set up the entire scene, this will be rendered onto the display. That means the final thing, it will be moved to the display. So the surface rendering is a process which will be helping us to put our final output onto the display. This picture is a good example for a surface rendering. So you can see here, it is having lights, it is having a lighting effect, shadows are seen here, shininess is there, and you can also see that the objects, when it is viewed very closely, what is the difference? Minute difference also is being brought up very clearly. You can see the cut apple over here, the brown color. The intensity is not same at all points over here. It is differing. The brown is going from light to dark at some place and dark to light at some places. The same with the grapes over here. You are having the shiny things and all. So this is a very good rendering, we say. That means the APIs what were used for lighting and shading, they are very good. And then by using those APIs, when you give the appropriate values, the object becomes more realistic. So this type of rendering, it is called as a realistic rendering. When we are talking about viewing, we will also know about the exploded and the cutaway views. Some graphics packages, whenever they want to show the internal structure of any object, they make use of this exploded view or a cutaway view. So the cutaway view is, it is going to remove some part, it is going to cut some part of the visible surface to show how the internal structure is organized. Exploded view is how when the objects connected are exploded, there will be some gap between them. That type of a view it will be created by making use of the exploded view. So when we look at this exploded and the cutaway view, we will clearly get an idea how this object or how one object is consisting of multiple objects within it. So we will have a hierarchical structure. If I am having a big scene, this is a hierarchy where in one scene you will have one object. Maybe that object will be consisting of multiple smaller objects. So they can be organized in a hierarchical structure and then it can be viewed very clearly. Here we can look at two types of views, the exploded view and the cutaway view. In the cutaway view, which is at the bottom, you can see that the plastic case has been cut off so that you can see the internal organization of the smaller objects. Similarly, when we go for the exploded view, you can see here the plastic case will be having the organization of the multiple small objects. So the difference between them will indicate that they are different parts. All of them will be organized and put together. So when you look at these views, it will be very clear to you how the objects are organized, what is their dimension, and which is coming first, which is coming next, how they are organized in a linear fashion, how the object is at the front or the back. All this will be very clear when you go for a exploded and cutaway view. Some graphics packages makes use of this view for rendering the objects. A three-dimensional stereoscopic viewing can be obtained by making use of a vibrating flexible mirror. When this mirror will be vibrating, you can see that the focal length, that means you will be having the distance between the object, it will be varying at every instant, and at that instant we are going to capture the scene and it will be reflected onto a spatial position which will be corresponding to the depth. The depth will be varying depending upon the mirror's vibration. The stereoscopic viewing, it is going to make use of both the left eye as well as the right eye, but it will be alternating. That means we will make use of one at a time. So when we are going to close the left eye and look at from the right eye, that will be captured, and then I am going to close my right eye and view from the left eye. So we'll combine these views into a monitor, and when we are going to view this monitor through the special glasses where we are going to darken the first one, that means we are not going to see the first one, we are going to enable the second one, and then we are going to enable the first one and we are going to disable the second one. When you do like this with a monitor which is having the refresh cycle, you will see that the scene will be displayed with a three-dimensional effect. You must have seen in the movie theaters and all how actually this 3D effect, this is how it will be done, where we will be having two views combined into one view. This beautiful scenario what we have here, by making use of this we can go for a stereoscopic viewing where we can enable the left first and we can disable the right, and then in the next instant we can go for enabling the right and then we can go for disabling the left. So when we do this in an alternate way, and then we are going to combine this onto the raster, when we are going to put it onto the monitor, and then you are going to look at that by using a lens, you will get a view which will be a more realistic view, and that view is called as a stereoscopic viewing. When we look at an object, we will be having the view from the left eye and the right eye, but the brain is going to perceive only one view, that is a combination of both left and the right. So they have taken this advantage in the 3D viewing. So in the 3D viewing, what we are going to do, the left view and the right view alternately they are going to be disabled by making use of a lens. When we make use of this alternating left view and the right view and the refresh rate is very fast, then you will get a view which will be called as a 3D effect. This is also called as a stereoscopic viewing. Now we will study the three-dimensional viewing pipeline. We are already familiar with the two-dimensional viewing pipeline in the previous topic. To start with, in a three-dimensional viewing pipeline, placing a camera at a position becomes very significant, because when we place a camera at an appropriate position, then it will be clear to me what I want to see. So whatever is there in the viewing range, that will be captured in my camera. So where this camera has to be placed, what is its orientation, and which direction it is facing to the picture, all these things have to be taken care in the three-dimensional viewing. Here we can see an object and a camera. The camera is placed at a position from the object, and the camera is also inclined, it is oriented at an angle towards the object. Whatever is present within the viewing angle of the camera, only that information about the object will be collected. Whatever is not present within the viewing plane, whatever is not present within the viewing range of the camera, that won't be captured by the camera. This is a three-dimensional viewing pipeline. So we have different coordinate systems here. The modeling coordinate system, world coordinate system, viewing coordinate system, projection coordinate system, normalized coordinate system, and finally the device coordinate system. So several transformations are happening here in this viewing pipeline, starting from the modeling transformation. And when we come to the device coordinate system, it should be having the transformation coming from the viewport. That means whatever the object is there, it will be mapped onto the square window, which is called as the viewport, and then I'm going to get that onto my device coordinate system. That means onto the display. The three-dimensional viewing plane, it will be going through several steps, and at every step the transformation is happening to the scene in terms of a 3-dimension. Finally, it will be going to the device coordinate. Once the scene has been modeled or it has been set up in the world coordinate, then we go for a viewing coordinate system, and then it will be converted to the viewing coordinates. This viewing coordinate system, it is going to add several parameters like position and orientation, and these things will be put onto the camera's view plane. The scene has to be aligned with the coordinate system. So the clipping window and the viewport and the display windows, all of them will be specified as rectangles, so that what we are getting from the coordinate system has to be mapped onto the coordinate axis. In the three-dimensional viewing, the clipping window will be positioned on a selected view plane, and the scenes will be clipped against the clipping planes. The viewing position and the view plane and the clipping window, all this will be specified within our three-dimensional viewing coordinate reference frame. The viewport will be specified in the device coordinate system. After performing the clipping operation, we go for the normalized coordinates, and then these will be transferred to the viewport coordinates. Apart from these, we should also see which surface should be hidden and which surface should be visible. This can be done by applying the surface rendering techniques. The final step is we have to map the viewport coordinates to the device coordinate system. It depends upon the display window. If I am following a left-handed reference frame, then I can make use of the positive distances from the display screen to measure the depth values in the scene. This is a very easy way how you can identify the objects close to the display screen and the objects which are far away from the display screen. Going further, now we will see what are the different parameters which will be present in our three-dimensional viewing coordinate system. So it can be a normal vector, or it can be a view up vector, or it can be a UVN, viewing coordinate reference frame. So by using this, we will see how we can generate a three-dimensional viewing effect. In the three-dimensional viewing coordinate system, we will be having several parameters. The first parameter is the P0. The P0 is the origin. That means where we have all the three axes meeting. So this P0 is also called as the viewpoint, or the viewing position, or the eye position, or the camera position. That means from which point I am going to look at the entire scene. That point is called as the viewing position. So this viewing position will play a very significant part whenever we are going to look at a scene. So this need not be the origin. It can be even other point also. Along with the P0, I am going to specify view up vector, which is called as the capital V, in which I am going to define the Y view direction. If it is a three-dimensional space, we also need to specify the X view as well as the Z view. In the next picture, we will see how the positioning of the three-dimensional viewing coordinate is done within a world coordinate system. Here we have two coordinate systems, the viewing coordinate system and the world coordinate system. Both of them are right-handed. That means after the X, then the Y comes, and then the Z comes in the anti-clockwise direction. So if both of them are compatible, only then only we can have the coordinate systems mapped easily and the view coming up clearly. So the viewing coordinate system is having its center at P0, which is having the origin at X0, Y0 and Z0. The viewing direction, it will be usually along the Z-axis. That means whenever I am looking at an object, I always look in the Z-axis direction. I told you the Z-axis always is coming towards your eye. It is coming out of the screen towards your eye. So when we are looking at this one, we will have the view plane which will be perpendicular to this Z-axis view. That is called as the projection plane. The projection plane, it is actually X and Y, because we are looking from the Z. On the Z we will not have any view. We will have the view only on the X and Y plane. That X and Y plane is called as the projection plane or the view plane. The orientation of this view plane and also the direction for the positive z-axis view, it can be defined with one vector which is called as a capital N, and it is called as the view plane normal vector. In this picture we can see the capital N. That capital N is the vector which is having the information about the orientation of the xy plane, and it will also give the information about the z-axis direction. So when we look from the z-axis, the object has to be present on the xy plane. So this plane is called as the viewing plane. That is called as the projection plane. Now the whatever we are going to view, that is on the viewing window, that is the P0. So from the P0, now I have to map that onto my view plane. So this is how the viewing view is going to work here. So we have one more parameter which is called as the ZVP. This ZVP is a scalar parameter and it will be used for setting the position of the view plane. So this ZVP, it will be present on the z-axis, that is a z-view axis. It will be usually present on the negative z-view axis. So whatever is coming towards you, that is the positive z-axis, and whatever is going against you, that means directly opposite you, that is called as the z-view direction. So the ZVP, what is there, this parameter, it will be present at some point on this z-view axis. So we know that the view plane is always parallel to the x view and the y view. That means the view plane is always, it is corresponding to the x and y plane. And the projection of the objects to this view plane, it will correspond what will be going to the output device. So the idea here is we have to convert what is in the viewing coordinate system to the world coordinate system, and then that has to be mapped onto your output display system. This parameter ZVP will be positive on the positive z-axis. It will be negative on the negative z direction. When we are looking through the z-axis, we will have the view on the xy plane. So on the xy plane, we will be having the projection of the objects, that is the points. The ZVP is a parameter which is going to influence where actually my view plane will be set up. That is, Z is for the Z direction, VP is for the view plane. So this parameter is going to tell me where actually this view plane will be set up on the projection plane. The vector n, which is the normal, in different graphic systems it will be having different directions. So the direction can be from the line which is going from the world coordinate origin to a selected point on the viewing coordinate, or else it can be on the line connecting the P reference to the origin P0. So in this case, the reference point is referred to as the look at point. That means the point what we are looking at, that is called as the reference point within that scene. Then the viewing direction will be opposite to the direction of the normal vector capital N. Here we have the world coordinate system and the viewing coordinate system. The viewing coordinate system is having its origin at P0. We have an object. This object has been projected on a plane on the xy direction. On the xy axis, we have a plane which is called as the view plane or the projection plane. On this projection plane, we have the object, and we have a point here which is called as the P reference. So this P reference is connected to P0. The normal, that is the normal vector which is on the view plane, it will be having its direction along the point which is connecting the P reference to the P0. So we have the capital V, which is called as a view up vector. This view up vector, it is a direction vector and it will be in the positive direction of the Y view axis. So we know what is capital N. The capital N is the view plane normal vector, and its direction will be from the P reference to the P0. So V is defined by one position which is related to the world coordinate origin. So the direction of this V, it will be from the world origin to this selected point which is on the world coordinate. So because the view plane normal vector, it defines the direction for the z axis. So the vector v will be perpendicular to the vector n. It is usually difficult to determine the exact direction for the v, which should be perpendicular to n. V is talking about the y view axis. N is talking about the negative z axis. Both of them should be perpendicular. But it will not happen. It will be difficult to find the exact direction which is perpendicular to n. So what we have to do in our APIs, in our viewing APIs or the routines or the functions, we have to adjust the user defined orientation of this vector v so that it will be projected onto the plane that is perpendicular to the view plane normal vector. That is, it should be perpendicular to the n. We can choose any direction for the view of vector v so long that it is not parallel to n. It should never be parallel because they are perpendicular to each other. V is talking about y-axis and n is talking about z-axis. So they should not be parallel. They should be perpendicular. We have to choose a direction in such a way. So the convenient choice what we are going to do is in the y-w axis we are going to set the value of v as 0, 1 and 0. That means the view vector what will be there, the y value will be the maximum and x and y will be equal to 0. The vector v, it should be adjusted either in the viewing routines or by making use of the APIs so that it will be exactly perpendicular to the viewing normal vector n. Only then we are going to have the viewing and the normal vector in such a way that whatever is present on your xy plane, they will be projected on your viewing plane, onto the projection plane and then to your device coordinate system. In some old graphic systems, the left-handed viewing coordinate was adopted. There the viewing direction was in the positive z view direction. And also the z view values, they will be interpreted as being very far from the viewing position along the line of sight when we are going to increase the z view values. But the right-handed viewing systems are adopted presently and they are very common and they are very comfortable because we have the same orientation for the viewing as well as the world coordinate frame. That is why these graphics packages, they will have to deal with only one graphic orientation. Instead of having two types of orientation, left-handed and right-handed, we just have only right-handed coordinate system, both for the world coordinate system as well as for the viewing coordinate system. In the UVN viewing coordinate reference frame, we know what is capital V. That is for the vector which is called as the viewing vector. N is for the normal vector. Now we will find what is U vector. So because the view plane N is defined along Z direction and the view of vector V, it is used in the Y axis direction, we will need only one more, that is the direction of the X axis. So using the input values for the N and the input values for the V, we can compute the third vector which is called as the U. This vector U, it is perpendicular to both N and V. N is on the Z axis, V is on the Y axis, U is on the X axis. That is why they should be perpendicular to each other. The vector U, it is going to define the direction for the positive X axis, the positive X view axis. So we are going to determine the correct direction for the U by taking the vector cross product of V and N so that it is going to form a right-handed reference frame for the viewing. The vector cross product of N and U, they will produce the adjusted value for V. This V will be perpendicular to both the N and U and it will be along the positive Y view axis. The coordinate system which is formed with these unit vectors, it is often described as UVN, viewing coordinate reference frame. That is small u, small v and small n. The small u, it is a cross product of v and n. The small v is equal to n into u and small n, it is a capital N. So when we take the cross product of this and when we derive the small n, u and v, by using these three, the reference frame what we are going to get, That reference frame is called as the UVN reference frame. So this is a right-handed viewing coordinate system. In this viewing coordinate system, we can see that we also have the small u, small v and small n. These are also right-handed coordinate system. And these unit vectors u, v and n, they are defined on the x view, y view and the z view respectively. So we have the vectors u, v and n. By using these vectors, we can go for producing several three-dimensional effects. So we can simulate a wide viewing angle by making use of 7 views of the scene with the same viewing position, but the viewing direction will be little shifted. Then the views can be combined and it can make a composite display. You must have seen in advertisements and all, where we'll be having an object will be there, multiple cameras will be placed, and with the direction is little different. The object will be at one place, but when you go for capturing the image from different directions and everything is combined together to form a view, you will get a continuous image. Like within a fraction of a second the changes are captured and you are going to get a continuous display. Then we can go for generating a stereoscopic view, that is a 3D view, by making use of shifting the viewing direction and shifting the viewpoint direction from the left eye to the right eye to the left eye by making use of a lens. That is called as a 3D view. And then this normal vector capital N, that is the parameter which is often changed in the graphics applications. So in some interactive applications like gaming and simulation, this vector is the one which is often changed and it is reflected in the graphics system. Panning effect can be created by making use of multiple cameras in one scene, where we are going to keep the normal vector, that is the capital N, constant, and we are going to change the viewpoint. That means the cameras are placed at regular intervals and the camera 1 is having one viewpoint, camera 2 is having another viewpoint, camera 3 is having another viewpoint. So we are going to switch on and switch off the cameras alternately and then we are going to capture the image. That means first I am going to collect the information from the camera 1. I am going to switch it off and then I am going to take the information from camera 2. Then from the camera 3. Then I am going to combine all these things and I am going to get a panning effect. In one advertisement I have seen Sachin Tendulkar's batting action was captured by hundreds of cameras which were set up around him. So when he was doing this batting action, that action was captured by hundreds of cameras, and when it was combined it was giving a view like a 360-degree view when he is batting. So that type of effect can be created by making use of these vectors which are called as capital N, U or V. In this case we are making use of the vector N. We can display different views of an object such as the side view, front view or the top view by moving the viewpoint around the object, like as shown in this figure. Also, we can generate different views of an object or a group of objects by going for a geometric transformations. We can make use of the 3D geometric transformations like translation, scaling, rotation, reflection, shearing, all these things. When you go for this, you don't have to go for changing the viewing parameters. Without changing the viewing parameters, you can go for generating different views. Refer to the internet for more material on this. There are so many materials available for the computer graphics. That is the end of my session for today. Thank you.